feel my flow? Come on, sing this song. He has a plan in Jesus' name. He has his hand on our brand. And growing together. We can make it through any weather. So come along, don't be scared. Hands in the air if you're feeling the flow. Sing along with the song. Hey, life streaming together. Life streaming together. Sing along if you feel my flow.
But I want you to understand this: on the other side of your challenge, on the other side of your situation, if you can trust him and believe him for it, is a blessing. There's a blessing on the other side. Man, what is going on, everybody? What is going on? It's Wade's Word of the Day. Wade's Word of the Day. So excited, so thankful, and grateful to be hanging out with you all on this evening. It's Monday. Y'all know Mondays is my favorite day. But what I need you to do tonight is check in with your boy, Molly Strong. We sit up there, Leanna Winstead. Brother Ray, thank you for coming into the space. Mondukes, we see you tonight. Denise Patterson and others are making their way into the room. And we are so thankful and grateful for it. We got a wonderful word on tonight that we want to discuss and all of that stuff. But check in. Let me know how you're feeling, how you're doing. Duchess Scott, good to see you tonight. Thank you for coming into the room as well. Rakia, what's going on, my sister? Thank you for coming into the space tonight. So let's check in. Let me know how you're doing, how you're feeling, because y'all know in this space, we believe this space to be a healing space. Yeah, space of redemption, reconciliation, all of them good words that speak to the fact that God ain't finished with us yet. So this is why we got to tell our stinking thinking, no stinking thinking. We're going to rock in positivity. This is why we got to tell our haters to do what? Put it where? Way back there. And certainly, I need somebody to know tonight that we rocking in faith and not in fear. So when we say, hello, fear, we're not encouraging fear. We're telling folk to show up in spite of your fear. Don't run away. When fear tries to convince you that you can't make it, that you can't do it, you run to it. Duchess Scott, I'm asking folk how they feeling tonight. Yeah, I'm asking folk how they feeling tonight. So y'all make sure y'all check in. Let me know how you feeling, how you doing. But I am doing well. Well, I'm doing good. I think you all, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that. So I'll answer that question in just a second, Sister Duchess. But yeah, I'm doing well. And we'll talk about that in just a second. So I need everybody to check in real quick. We got a wonderful word, assignment, and I'm on assignment tonight. This is my assignment to help us to understand that we live streaming together.
If you feel my flow, come on, sing this song. He has a plan in Jesus' name. He has his hand on our brand. And growing together. We can make it through any weather. So come along, don't be scared. Hands in the air if you're feeling the flow. Sing along with the song. Hey, life streaming together. Life streaming together. Sing along if you feel my flow. Come on, sing this song.
Hey. Live streaming together. Our word tonight is assignment. Assignment is simply defined as a piece of work assigned to someone. Piece of work that's assigned to someone. Assignment. Brother Ray, we're keeping you lifted up in prayer. All right. Yeah. Assignment. Are you on your assignment? Because if you are on your assignment, God has a way of placing a burden on our hearts in terms of whatever it is that God is trying to get us to do. there is a burden, that won't be lifted, that can't be shaken. That's when you know. Leland once said, "I think you know what your assignment is." I would argue you ain't ready to receive it yet, but I think, contrary to what people think or say, yeah. Oftentimes, I'll say it like this. A lot of the things that I'm doing now, truth be told, I've been doing all my life. I've always been able to communicate. I've always kind of been a leader. So the giftings that come with certain assignments, responsibilities, God has already kind of put them in your DNA in preparation for when you are ready to give your yes. You follow what I'm saying? When you're ready to give your yes. So they're already, those tools. He has already given you those tools. They're already down in your DNA for when you're ready to say yes. The problem is we struggle to get to our yes, because our yes requires us to give total commitment to his purpose. Total commitment to his purpose. And I think some of the reasons that we don't move into our assignment is preconceived ideas of things that have been placed in our mindset down through the years, false statements that have been placed in our DNA, if you will. I'll argue, coming into ministry, feeling a sense that God had, called me into it. I got to be honest, my first inclination was like, hell no, excuse my French, but I wasn't interested in doing what I'm doing when the assignment came, and here's the reality. Oftentimes we often run away before we run to. Because I'll say it like this, I've said it like this down through the years. God always has a plan. So you got to think of your assignment as not necessarily as your plan, but it's God's plan. Because God always has a plan. He had a plan for the fall of man. He had a plan for Abraham as it relates to him having a son. Sometimes we try to slide our plan in because we become impatient with waiting on God's plan. But you need to know tonight that God always has a plan. That's step number one, is recognizing that God always has a plan. He always has a plan. And you and I must come to grips with that. That, as the song used to say, he has the whole world in his hand. And sometimes his plan seems crazy. It seems strange, right? You remember what the Bible speaks about, how God and the angels were gathered around the throne, and somehow the enemy seeped in, and the only one who could point him out was God. And he said, Satan, Lucifer, Satan, what are you doing here? And he said, I've been going to and fro up and down the face of the earth or whatever. Notice what God's plan is. God looks at one of his children and he says to say, have you tried my servant Job? Now, on the surface, one might even ask, why would God do that? Why would God allow Job to go through all of those things? Because oftentimes we only see God's plan in light of our situations and our circumstances. It's God's plan, and God always has a plan. That's your number one tonight in terms of thinking about your assignment. It's God's plan. Whatever it is that he is trying to push you into, purpose, plan for your life, if you will, you've got to always see it as God's plan. God's plan. Then number two, what happens? What happens? God invites us into the plan. He invites us into the plan which now becomes our assignment. Now, initially, oftentimes what happens when we get an inclination that God is inviting us into his plan, initially we get excited about it because most of us, we long, we want God to use us. We want to be a part of the program. We want to, be on the Lord's side. Who on the Lord's side? I'm on the Lord's side. And in our churchiness, our first inclination is to be excited about the plan. But here's the reality. Whenever you see things that are going on and it's really God's plan, there are moments in the midst of God's plan when people shake their head and say, God, are you sure about this? You understand what I'm saying? Abraham and his wife, are you sure about this? We old. It's all get out. You know what I mean? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? We're going to have a child. Sarah is apprehensive from the very beginning. From the very beginning. So what happens is when we get an invite, an assignment into God's plan, initially, man, we kind of excited about it. Man, God is going to use me. This is why in church, a lot of folk get excited when folk tell them, you're going to do this and you're going to do that and you're going to do this. And we get all excited with that, but we fail to realize step three. Step three. And I'm going to argue it ain't the devil. Step three ain't the devil. It ain't the devil, y'all. It's you and it's me. Because at the beginning, man, God wants to use me. He's giving me assignment. But step number three is there's always a crisis of faith. And that ain't got nothing to do with the devil. That's to do with you and I. Because that crisis of faith comes about when we realize that God's plan is bigger than us. It's bigger than us. And we have, if you will, been going down through the years, some of us, getting trained and going to school, studying as much as we can study, just doing all of these particular things that we think that we should be doing because it's in God's, plan and in God's hand and God wants to use me and everything like that. But then we come to a point when we realize that everything that we thought would be the source is not the source. And there's a crisis of faith. Yeah. There's a crisis of faith because we start to realize that God's plan is bigger than you and I. And I don't want you to beat yourself up tonight about that, but you need to understand that's a part of the process. Now, what happens is you've got to decide at that point, when there is this crisis of faith, will you break through or will you break down? Will you at that point, by faith, while you recognize it's bigger than you, will you trust that God works in the impossible? Will you believe that if he began a good work in you, that he will see it to completion? But oftentimes what happens at that point of this crisis of faith, we get stuck. And sometimes that period can last a long time. This is why you see some folk who are in their 50s and 60s who will say to you, man, I knew 30 years ago what it was that God wanted me to do, but they're just now picking it up. Because that period of that crisis of faith can last a long time because you'll start to question yourself. You'll start to question whether or not God can use you, this and that. And then life situations begin to happen in your life that would cause you to think, see, God can't use me. God don't want to use me. But you'll have this certain burden, this knowing, if you will, in your shanana, that you'll never be able to release until you do what God is calling you to do. And here's the sad thing. There are a lot of folk who are 6 feet deep somewhere and their purpose died with them. Because at that moment of the crisis of faith, they didn't run into their assignment. They threw their hands up and said, it's too much. I'll never be able to do it. God won't use me. Then, Rakia, then the enemy starts to whisper in your ear. See what I told you? See what I'm saying? See you? You know, he's trying to bamboozle you. He's trying to trick you. God can't use you. This is what is happening with Job. God says Job's purpose right from the beginning, before he even releases the enemy to even mess with him. He says, Job is mine. He's upstanding. He's upright. He's one of mine. But through the course of the assignment, negative friends start to come around, getting all in his ear, trying to convince him that he did something wrong. You've been around some folk like that. God has given you an assignment, and it seems like the assignment is not going in the direction and the place that you would have it to be. And those same people who are supposed to be your friends, who are supposed to be lifting you up, all they doing is like the Wiz, bringing you bad news. Trying to convince you, trying to get you off of your assignment. And this is why you got to be careful about who, if you are moving as it relates to the assignment that God has for you, you got to be careful who you allow in your ear gate. And I would argue some of y'all are sitting around some folk who are blocking your progress, who are blocking your assignment because they're constantly telling you what you cannot do. Constantly telling you because of your hiccups in your past, because you went through some things that God can't use you. And come on in a little bit closer, there are even some churches that are doing that. Trying to disqualify you when God ain't disqualified you. And so you can spend years in this crisis of faith because you fail to recognize it is at that moment when I have to decide, will I trust God through it all? And so while Job complains a lot, he does not let go of God. And sometimes we've got to know the difference, y'all. Yes, he complained. Yes, he was in pain. He was a human being. He was going through some things. Yeah, negative people all around him, sores all around him, lost his family. Who wouldn't be a little bit frustrated? Who wouldn't want to murmur and complain a little bit? But he would not curse his God. Are you picking up what I'm putting down? He would not let go of his God. And that's what I'm trying to say to somebody tonight. Listen, you're on assignment. You're going to go through some things, but you've got to hold on to the sure foundation. I done just helped somebody tonight. Yeah. Job, he complained, he murmured, he was a little upset. You would have been too. But he would not curse God. He would not give up on he who knows all things, he who sees all things, he who makes all things well. And I want you to see the flip side of that. Job is complaining. Job is murmuring. Job is going through what he's going through. But the flip side of that is God didn't give up on him. Some of y'all going to get that in the morning. It's Monday night. I'm getting a little bit too deep for you. God didn't give up on him. So stop beating yourself up because you have a human moment. Stop beating yourself up because you have a human moment. Stop beating yourself up because you had a bad chapter. You've got to ask yourself in this moment, listen, will I, whether it's 10, whether it's 5, whether it's 10, whether it's 15 years from the place and space that you knew that God was calling you into something, will you at that moment break through because you're tired of breaking down? Will you exercise your faith and trust him now, today? Because you ain't through living until you through living. Somebody ought to text that out tonight. You ain't through living until you through living. So you could be on this side through living because you through living. But can I help you tonight? God is not through with you. Because if you ain't through living, you ain't through living. Did y'all get that? Are you understanding what I'm saying? And you see example after example after example. We can point to David, hiccups, but he's still on assignment. You can point to Moses, hiccup after hiccup, but he's still on assignment. He didn't give up on God. They didn't give up on God, and God didn't give up on them. And too many of us in our day and time have allowed folk to convince us that God has given up on us. Yeah, that God is through with you because you had a moment of humanity in the midst of your assignment. But I would argue tonight that he's softly and he's tenderly yet still calling your name. And just like your yes may have been a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, reclaim your yes. Tell the Lord, yes. Yeah. Tell him, yes, I'm ready to move in the assignment that you would have for me. But understand this, the assignment is always bigger than you. That's the frustrating thing about it. Now, let me talk about me. That's the frustrating thing about it, because oftentimes when God gives you something, a lot of times it's beyond the capacity of the folk that you've been rocking with. It's beyond their imagination, their understanding in terms of your context. So initially, the folk that you've been rocking with will try to convince you God can't do that. God won't do that. He ain't trying to do that. And it becomes frustrating because you see it. Yeah. You know, kind of like Noah out there building a boat. Everybody around him can't see it, but he know what he's been called to do. I would even argue kind of like Jesus, right? I am the Son of God, but everybody around you, even the folk who are supposed to know you, are calling you everything but a son of God. Remember, they called him a devil, right? And if they did all that to Jesus, why are you getting all turned up? You remember Jesus even dealing with the disciples. How many times did he have to say to them, how long am I going to be with y'all and y'all not have faith? So here is the reality. When God gives us an assignment, y'all, it ain't easy work. Because not only are you dealing with God, but you're also dealing with people, because any assignment that he gives you is connected to people. I think I told you the other night, it ain't just for you. And we live in a generation now where we think everything is just for us, our individual self. And so we hang up all of these accolades on the wall, or trying to get all of these accolades on the wall because we just think it's about us. But any assignment that God gives you is not just for you, but it's connected to people. So if you're talking about, I want God's assignment on my life, but you can't stand people, because his assignment is always connected to people. I'm going to use Saul for what? The deliverance of the Gentiles. I'm sending Moses down there to tell Pharaoh to let my people go. Disciples, what I want you to do, okay, y'all finally got it. The Holy Spirit is on you. But what I need you to do now is go ye, therefore, preaching and teaching, baptizing in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. It's connected to people. So can I suggest to you tonight that when God calls you into something, it not only blesses you, but it also blesses people? So if you're just thinking that your assignment is connected to you, that's how you miss it. Because your assignment is really what I've said over and over in this space. God has assigned you to be the solution to a problem that's connected to people. So look for the problems around you. It is in the problems that are around you that you'll really find your assignment. Because God calls us to be solutions to problems. Are you picking up what I'm putting down tonight? Are you getting it? Are you understanding it? And so it's never in isolation. It's never in isolation, because God is raising a people, and he wants to use you in his plan, because it is his plan, and he invites you to be a part of the plan. Yes, you will run into a crisis of faith, but you have to say to yourself, well, when that happens, will I break down or will I break through? Simple as that. That's what it is. That's the principle of your assignment. So get to it. Because I would argue it's near, it's right around you. It's near. You got this burden around certain things. Listen to that. Because that very well could be your assignment. Hope this word has added value to your life on tonight. If this word has blessed you on tonight, do me a favor. Tag, text, and tell somebody. Invite them into the space. We're here every night, Monday through Friday, 8 p.m. We call this space Wade's Word of the Day. Hey, we so appreciate you all. Big ups to everyone who came into the concert on last night, man. Yeah, it was dope. Yeah, it was dope. Yeah, so maybe that ain't the right word in this space. You know, they pick up on words. It was nice. It was beautiful. It was wonderful. The baddest man in Guitar Land. Yeah, gave a lot of extra. So you saw a different element of the baddest man in Guitar Land, and so it was a great concert. So let me know, do you all want to see more things like that coming from our space? If you do, inbox us, let us know, so forth and so on. We got a lot of things planned for 2022, and we want you to be a part of it as we go higher and higher and higher, as we move out in the assignment that God has placed on our lives in this season. Man, I've been listening to all types of music and everything like that. And yeah, so this week I was kind of feeling, after, let me say it like this, then I'm gonna let you go. I got to be honest, leading up to the event, I wouldn't necessarily say it's stressful for me, but there's a lot of work that goes into, doing what we do. And I do it on a daily basis. And so, just wanting everything to be the way that it needs to be. So you tend to not get as much sleep as you're supposed to get, and so forth and so on, and all of those particular things. You know it's going to turn out well, but yet you want to make sure as best as you can, right? To make sure that you see the assignment through. And so, it's constantly on your mind. It was constantly, on my mind in terms of, and the beginning of the year is always hectic for me because I'm thinking through, I'm visualizing the whole year. Truth be told, I'm thinking about what I'm believing God for at the beginning of the year, and I'm seeing myself in it at the end of the year, walking through it, right? And so it's a lot of mental work, not so much physical work, but mental work can drain the body, if you will, especially if you're not getting enough sleep, which I wasn't. But music got me through, and the Lord got me through, because some of y'all church folk, the Lord got me through along with some music. Okay, is that better for y'all? And so I was just listening to different styles of music. Last week I gave y'all a little bit. Then today, I don't know, I came across this one, and I found myself jamming to this. So y'all let me know if you're feeling it. Here we go.
The tears I cry. Let me show everybody. So if it is enough, why do I feel this way? Why does she stay on my mind? If it is enough, why does it hurt so bad? Makes me feel so sad.
Hey, I gotta get out of here. It's Wade's Word of the Day. We're here every night, Monday through Friday. Come on! Hey, 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 hey. I gotta get out of here. I love y'all so much. Sing it! Hey!
Baby, so take me back. I made a big mistake. Won't you forgive me, girl?
I gotta go. I'll talk to y'all real soon. Love y'all so much. I'm out of here. It's Wade's Word of the Day. Get connected. We live streaming.
Everybody in the house now, somebody scream.